Hi, I'm Kara, co-founder and CEO of Describe.
And I'm Rich, and I am the other co-founder of Describe.
Yes, he doesn't have a title. He's just co-founder. So we wanted to talk to you all about some new tools that we have at Describe. Of course, those who are following our channel know us and love us for our case law research, which we've been doing for about 3 years and continue to do that and are very excited about it. But because of our beautiful, clean, and structured data, we have the ability to build some very, very cool tools on top of that data that helps you in your daily work. And we wanted to start in a really important place, which is how tools like Describe can help prevent the horrible situations some attorneys find themselves in when they are putting in briefs with hallucinated citations or things that are misquoted or other such fobbles that gets them into trouble. So we have a tool called Describe Review, which we're going to dig into. And this is particularly timely. The date today is April 8th, and I'm sure there are plenty of other NPR listeners out there. But this morning on Morning Edition, there was a story talking about judges getting really irritated about this and starting to put in some serious sanctions. So it's hitting the mainstream media, which is pretty interesting. Of course, anyone in legal tech, we've been talking about this forever. But really good story. If you have a chance, listen to it. There's some really interesting context there for everyone to listen to. And Carla Whale from the University of Washington Law School is in there. Joe Patrice is in there. David Charlatine from the database that's tracking all these hallucinated cases is in there. So give it a listen. So very timely story. And fortunately, when you listen to stories like this, we say to ourselves, oh, I wish they would have known about what we have that can help them because they could have avoided this. So Rich, why don't we tell our friends out there what Describe Review is and how it can help with these kinds of, help avoid these kind of situations.
Yeah, I'll just bring up my screen. And what we have is a series of workflows that we're working on. But then Describe Review is what we're here to talk about today. And what you do here is you could take a PDF or a doc or a Word doc and you could upload it. But since it takes 5 minutes, I'll just bring one up that I did a few minutes ago, like right before this. So this is an actual brief that was in the news, and a judge sanctioned the attorney for submitting hallucinated cases and hallucinated citations. These things are good to test with when we're doing the testing of our new Describe Review, because we can see if our results match what the judge found. And in this case, they match pretty perfectly, which shows that if this attorney had known about our tool and used it, they may have avoided some of the issues that they ran into. But at the top, it shows you the number of citations that it found, the number that it resolved, the number that it was not able to resolve. But there's more subtlety than that. So this particular case at first here is one that it actually resolved and found, but it's not quoted in any way that matches the original source. So this was something the judge found too. Like, you cited this case, this is a real citation, but we don't know where you got this quote from. The second one here is one that just doesn't seem to exist, this citation. So when our tool comes back and says, we couldn't find this is a huge red flag and a blinking warning light, like you better go check this. And as Kara said, you can run your own brief through, you could run opponent brief through, you could check all kinds of briefs through this. If you're a student, you could check your briefs too as you're writing them.
Yeah, and a professor, because
professor.
as we get more embedded into law schools, it's an interesting use case to see how your students are sort of where their logic is or lack thereof.
Yeah. So this particular one ends up being a hallucinated case from the original, but this is where a lot of tools stop. They'll tell you binary, this citation's found or it's not. Where we wanted to go deeper was finding if the way you use the case is actually like if the source case supports it. So we have a whole thing that shows whether the source material supports the way you're using the case. And this is a perfect example here. This particular case is found, it's resolved, the citation is real, and this quote is found here, but the original proposition here doesn't seem to match the original case. So that's another huge red flag here. Like if you're using this, and this turns out that either AI wrote this or attributed a quote from a different case to this case or something. So we call that out. And then what else we do, which is really kind of cool, is we tell you how these cases are usually used. And so this particular case is usually used in these three ways. So if you're not using it in one of these ways, then that's another kind of warning that maybe you're doing something incorrect. Um, yeah, so that's Cara, that's
Yeah.
the quick
That's a
walkthrough
quick
here.
and dirty. Yeah. And so one of the things I'd point out to the listeners is that the reason you can get to this level of clarity is because of how structured the data is. So if people don't know us, we talk about that a lot, but we've spent the first 3 years of our existence basically creating this incredibly structured knowledge graph, and Rich can explain it better than I can, but it that's what allows for these kind of outputs. So if you tried to do some of this research, in other ways, you wouldn't get anywhere near the same kind of reliable answer. So it's a very unglamorous and sort of arduous task to build this entire system, but that's how you then, when you get to the point that you can start building these tools on top of it, you get to very reliable answers. And the one thing that strikes me the more I look at this and think about this is not only is it good at catching AI generated mistakes, but let's be honest, humans make a whole lot of mistakes too, and maybe not the same kinds. Like maybe you're not going to invent cases from the future and things like that the way AI does, but you might misquote something or paraphrase it incorrectly, right? Rich? So it's catching that kind of nuance instead of just right and wrong, you said.
Yeah, that's a good point. And in other briefs I've tested, I've probably run through a couple hundred briefs. And what I found is there's a lot of paraphrasing of source material that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
So you quote a source opinion, but when you're paraphrasing it, you might tend to tilt it in your favor a bit. And this will call that out. It'll say, this seems paraphrased, and it seems like you may have lost the meaning a bit of it.
Interesting.
So
Yeah. So you can
yeah, so
catch,
it'll call it out
yeah.
it on your own. Like you don't want to do that. You don't want to submit that to an opponent, or maybe you're
Well,
doing,
you
but
might leave yourself a gap, or a leave a big gap that they can run through, or if someone else has left a gap for you to run through, like that's,
exactly.
yeah. So that's interesting. So it's more than just catching the really obvious mistakes. It's helping with that education, that nuance, which is, as we know, where most of the law is sort of happening, right? Or the sort of interesting parts of the process. So that's cool. But there's another part of this that really strikes me, and anyone who knows me or has heard me talk knows access to justice, and the hope that AI and other tools can help close the justice gap. I mean, they certainly won't do it on their own, but they're one of the
And
best,
level the playing
leveling the
field a
playing
bit.
field. Yeah, and they're the best opportunity we've had in probably a long time. So what I worry about is that if there's too much misuse or unintentional or poor use of these tools, and judges and other people in the judiciary or in the government who aren't really technically savvy overreact or freak out, and they should freak out. These things should not be happening, but we could unintentionally sort of harm any potential that these tools have to help with access to justice and getting legal information. And for some companies, not ours, but who are actually building legal services to people that need it. So it's really important for the legal tech community to actually do everything we can to try to help people avoid these mistakes. And, in the hopes that we don't end up shutting down the innovation that hasn't happened yet. It's really important. We believe very, very strongly that our technology is here to serve and here to serve people that need it. So that's what we're here to do. And that's why we keep our prices so low. And, it would be a shame for our whole community if things got shut down before they could show their true potential because things were being misused. I'm not saying there shouldn't be regulation or rules. Of course there should, but I just worry that we could lose a lot of benefit if we don't act a little more responsibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully I'm wrong. But yeah, and so what we'd like from our community is for you to just test it. We build with you all the time. What you tell us you need is what we add to our tools. So there you go. So please check it out and let us know what you think. And we'll be back soon with another piece of information about another tool that we have coming out soon. Probably Describe Challenge, but we'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
See you next week.
See you next time.
Thank you, Kara.
Bye. Thanks, Rich.